Hello, everyone. It's Lisa Starr here with another episode of the StarrCast Podcast. I'm really excited to discuss our topic today, which is sustainability in spas. It's a topic, of course, that is on every newspaper front page daily about sustainability in the world. What are we doing about it? Climate change, etc. But I have two individuals here who are really doing something and have focused on completing efforts and making tools available to everyone in our silo of spa and wellness. So I'm happy to welcome Michael Stusser, the founding member of the Green Spa Network and a founder of Osmosis Day Spa Sanctuary in California. He's based in California, and Lucy Brialey, the co-founder and director of the UK-based Sustainable Spa Association. So welcome to both of you.
Thanks, Lisa.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Michael, as I mentioned, you started the Green Spa Network in 2006, but you were already the owner of Osmosis at that time. Could you just explain for the audience briefly how the Green Spa Network came to be?
Sure. Green Spa Network was born out of a team of people who were active on the sustainability front within the International Spa Association. And for a number of years, we were invited to form a committee and present content at the International Spa Conference. Mm-hmm. And we gradually built up a good following within that context, but we discovered at a certain point that there just wasn't the level of commitment that we felt was needed in order to be able to really catalyze real action within our industry. So we decided we needed to splinter off and create our own community. And that's an important word, community, because it was very much at the heart of our intention when we started the Green Spa Network, was to really build heart-to-heart bonds between the people who really care, who really are deeply motivated and sincere about doing something significant about what is happening on the planet and the incredible potential that we have within our industry to make a difference.
I remember those iSpa breakfasts, right? There used to be a meeting in the morning before the regular program started. That, however many years ago that's been, 14, 16 years ago. So you have a lot of history that we'll delve into. Lucy, your organization is a little newer, but has dived right in. Why don't you tell us a little bit about your path?
Sure. So thanks, Lisa. We are much newer. We launched in 2020. And so we're literally kind of 19 months into our journey now. So And there's been many changes along the way that we've had to move really fast on. But my background particularly is in the spa industry over 25 years. But personally, my interests have been in health and wellness and sustainability. And so really for me, it was about bringing those two things together. Because without a healthy planet, you can't have healthy people. Mm. So it was about bringing those two interests together to form the association, and really kind of bring it to the forefront just that little bit more. But what really pushed me to do it was the consumer interest in sustainability really peaking probably back in 2018. And so I did quite a bit of research for a number of years to actually get to the point of launching the association.
Excellent. I'm thinking it must have been a little more difficult for you, Lucy. Michael had a base of people to draw from. We had been going to iSpa conferences and having, the Green Spa breakfast ahead of time. He sort of knew who was in his milieu. I mean, how did you know there was enough groundswell of support for starting this association in the UK?
Yeah, I think that's a good question. And I have, over my 25 years, been in the spa industry in and out in a number of different ways. And one thing that really drove me on was my own personal passion. The two most successful businesses I have run on my own are ones that come from the heart.
Yeah.
But also, really, it was going back to what I said before, the consumer push, the consumer attitudes changing towards sustainability. So I think even though if it wasn't present within the spa industry at that time, if the consumer is demanding it, it's important that we sit up and listen.
Very, very much agree. So, Michael, at what point did these breakfasts break off into your own organization? What was the catalyst for that?
Well, the catalyst for it was we were actually having our committee meeting at iSpa, and someone was sent from the administration of iSpa into our committee meeting to tell us that they had decided to disband our committee because from here forward, sustainability was going to be carried out in every part of the organization, so we weren't needed anymore. Mm-hmm. And that was a prompt that just kind of helped us decide that, yeah, I guess what we've been feeling is true, and we do need to branch out on our own. And I remember in the aftermath of one of our sessions, being in a room with a bunch of people and trying to think of, well, what are we going to call ourselves? What's mm-hmm. the right name? Are we going to be an association? Are we going to be a club? And Dr. Don DeVierville was there, and he said, network. Oh, perfect, network. So, mm-hmm. That was kind of the catalytic moment. And then what we did is for a number of years, there were several conferences that all of us were interested in. There was the LOHAS, mm-hmm. Lifestyles of Health and Sustainability, which was a brilliant conference for many years. And there was also Co-op America. And so we would go to those conferences, and then at the end, we would have our own meeting. And that was how we began to build synergy by kind of deriving information and ideas from these other organizations and linking up with them and using their meetings kind of as a catalyst and a launching pad to help us further generate our vision for what we wanted Green Spa Network to be and building it out. So by far the most significant part of the organization to date has been the actual gatherings that we've had, just because it's generated so much enthusiasm and interest. And as we get further into our conversation today, we can discuss more of the specifics.
Mm-hmm. How many people were involved with the Green Spa Network at the onset?
Well, getting membership was not difficult at the beginning, and we had several hundred members early on. And it was enough money to make us, quasi-viable. That was before we really had paid staff and we were all volunteers. And then, but we started initially with the seed spas. Mm-hmm. And what we did is we reached out to a select group of iconic businesses in our industry who we felt really had a genuine commitment to sustainability. And we invited them to become founding members, and each one paid a substantial sum in order for us to be able to fund having a sustainability expert, Gil Friend, to go to each property and perform this assessment. And then when all the assessments were completed, we had our first Congress. This was in 2007. And really brought all this information together and started to make choices about how and where we would focus our energy as an organization.
So your model is that you have a very vibrant website, lots of great tools that are available and resources for free, but of course there's a membership fee. Is that still the case? There's a membership?
Yes. Green Spa Network is a 501c6. Mm-hmm. That means we're a trade association. And by the way, I have not been actively involved in Green Spa Network for the past 4 or 5 years.
That's okay. We don't need to go there, Michael.
Okay. In any case, so we've designed, I think, one of our most important tools, and we've devoted huge resources to it, is the assessment tool.
Mm-hmm. Okay, well, we'll get to that. I just wanted to see if you still had the membership model. So you
absolutely. We have membership is a key part of the organization, and sponsorship. Those are the key ways in which the organization is working right now.
And Lucy, does yours have a similar model? How are you funded?
Yeah. Okay. So this is constantly evolving.
Right?
So when I say we, I found a partner along the way while I was doing my research. But when we wrote the business plan, it was pre-pandemic, and we planned to launch in the kind of March, just as the pandemic was coming in. And actually, by then we could have ripped up the business plan and thrown it away because the world had changed. So we did begin with a membership model, and we still have a membership model. But initially it was something that would be a paid membership. Now it is a completely free membership, and there are resources and education and campaigns that all of our SPA members can become involved in. But of course, within that membership, because we have to survive as an organisation, there are payable options that can take them further. So it's free to come in. We have SPA operator members, we have consultants, we have academics and students as well, and also sponsors that are outside of the SPA industry, and then brand partners who are typically suppliers to the industry. So we have a number of stakeholder groups.
Okay, good. So that's how you get paid. I mean, you do need to make some money from this, so that's only fair.
Yeah, similarly to Michael, we're set up as what's known as a CIC here in the UK, which is a community interest company. So it is a not-for-profit, but that doesn't mean it doesn't make profit. It just means that the profits are locked for good causes.
Good. I love that you have a very clear messaging, Lucy, on your website with your 3 pillars, which are people, planet, and profit, with some great data around that. How did you evolve that sort of approach to your mission?
It's not actually an approach that we have evolved. It's a very, very well-known structure of sustainability. It's one that we have adopted, that's used now, not as a kind of, how can I say it, an alternative business model, but it's now viewed as a very viable business model that makes a lot of sense. So what we've done is we've taken the pillars of sustainability and the science and the broad and deep subject that is sustainability, and our expertise comes into translating that into a language that is really applicable and relevant to a SPA operator.
That's perfect. I noticed that the data or the little sayings that you have on the website are that 71% of spas want to improve their environmental footprint and reduce wasteful business practices. Of course, 78% of spas would like to have a more beneficial impact on their local community, and 67% say sustainability helps them communicate their performance to investors and stakeholders. So again, touching on those 3 pillars, I think that was very well done, and a good approach to start out. Michael, I'm going to switch back to you. The Green Spa Network has a pretty extensive mission and vision statement. Do you tie those into the UN SDGs in any way? When did that sort of correlation start between sustainable associations and these UN Sustainable Development Goals?
So in a very specific way, Green Spa Network has yet to really match up real concrete, activities with those goals. The sustainability word is really a tricky one. And it's interesting, Lucy, that your organization, just when it was about ready to shift into, the next gear, ran headlong into the pandemic. and caused such a major regrouping for you early on. Well, we experienced the exact same thing because we ran right into the recession in 2008. And it was incredibly difficult to get people to sponsor or become members because everything was so tight and there were so many unknowns about what was going to happen to the industry. So I think that, this time around, in terms of you guys, I really am hoping that those kinds of factors I think it's a different landscape now, and you have a much better prospect of being able to get the traction you need in spite of the environment. And of course, it's changing rapidly right now as people are flocking back into spas. So I think you're going to be a lot better off than Green Spa Network was at this particular point in time in your trajectory. So, this language is really interesting. And I think, for the Green Spa Network, sustainability, in 2008, it became sustainability of the organization. And, it's come back to that again and again. It is really hard to get traction and make a go of it. And one of the words that I think is an important one for us to be looking at, I'm thinking of two things. One is this shift from sustainability to regeneration. I think is a very important way to understand what this movement means, how it's changing, and how to talk about it. And Paul Hawken's new book, which is called Regeneration, is an incredible publication. I highly recommend it. I don't know if either one of you have seen it yet, but it's a whole game changer for the sustainability movement. And not only the book, but the website that goes with it is even more significant. And it follows on the heels of his previous book, Drawdown, very important markers in the landscape. The other thing I wanted to talk about just for a minute here, based on what we've been saying, is this, the pillars very, very similar for Green Spa Network our tagline was Vital People, Vital Planet. And that was our own way of saying, people, planet, profit as, a way to understand things. But I think that people, planet, prosperity is a way of messaging it that is broader and more impactful. Just an idea.
Well, I love that. I love that both of those ideas address the financial angle, because especially I think in the spa industry, sometimes we think profit is a bad word, that we're not supposed to be profitable. We're supposed to do good for people, but we cannot do good and carry on our missions without being profitable going enterprises. And what you do with that profit is perhaps put it back in the business or fund other initiatives or do good things with it. But you exist, you employ people, and we cannot do that without profitability or prosperity. So it does make sense. We want to be altruistic, but you also have to be realistic, right, about how these organizations run. And there's a lot of manpower hours both of you have and will give that weren't necessarily paid for. You just do it because you're passionate about it. But not everybody in your team would share that goal. I want to talk a little bit about how broad sustainability is, because when you go into a business and you say, what are your sustainability practices? And you realize, wow, there's so much to it, because does it mean you're sustainable on the client-facing side? Does it mean you're operationally sustainable, that you're doing business with businesses that look at that? And I think like in the Green Spa Network toolkit, there's, 12 areas or more: cleaning, community, employees, energy, equipment, your food and beverage, your laundry, lighting, retail, textiles, water, waste, and each one of them is important. So how do you advise your members to approach this? I know, Lucy, I've noticed on your site that you have these little task force you join that are very specific, and I thought that was clever too. Could you, Lucy, why don't you start and elaborate on that approach?
Sure. I mean, you are right, Lisa. It's a very, very broad subject, and but sustainability means different things to different people and at different times and geographically. So one of the most important things we do is work with many spa associations globally. We talk to their heads, their leaders, and appropriate people within the organization, and we do in-depth research with them on what sustainability means in their geographical region, and we're writing reports on that. So for example, if you ask someone in the UK or Europe or America, Australia even, and other more affluent countries, they will tell you that sustainability is all about the environment. When we talk to Asia Pacific and the kind of African spa associations, the focus is much more, and the most pressing needs on sustainability are much more around education, about the economy, about women in the workplace, healthy work conditions. And so the needs for sustainability are entirely different, which is why all of these pillars of sustainability and regeneration could be counted as one of them, are highly important. They're really, really interwoven into each other, and one does not succeed without the other. One of the things we do really like to talk about is the economic side of things. I think people fall into naturally different pillars of sustainability as a passion. So, if I had to categorize myself, I would say that, as a therapist in my background, people and planet are really my natural go-to. But actually economy is a huge part of the subject, because that enables people like me to do that work really, really well. And we mustn't forget that. And also, so actually I'm pushing myself and my education, my learning through a sustainability framework to look at the economic factors within our global sector far, far more, because you can't ignore any one of them. They're all equally important.
But it's a daunting list, is it not, for a spa that looks at this and says, wow, I mean, there's so many areas to work in. How do they choose just one? Michael, do you have any advice on how you guys have handled that at Green Spa Network?
Well, yes, and very much so from the beginning. We've been very conscious of the daunting nature of the task at hand, if you really look at it with sober eyes, and what needs to be accomplished. And we were fortunate to have on our board members someone who participated in the sustainability part of Hewlett-Packard for decades. And he advised us that we would get a lot more traction and have a lot more success if we built our organization around a culture of merit rather than a culture of metrics. And what he was saying was not disparaging metrics, because they're important. But if we were to have become overly focused on metrics, we would end up dampening the enthusiasm. So what we wanted to do is to really celebrate the victories. And every business is different, and every business has an opportunity to do really well in at least a few specific areas. So that is how we approached it. We wanted to really elevate, celebrate, and identify the innovations and creative solutions that were found, and hold those up into the light, and not have people feel diminished because their score was low because of one or two or three factors they had no control over, because of the nature of their lease or their location or the country they were in. There's so many factors. So that's one part of how I would respond to that. And then the other one is, intention.
Mm.
When we used to have our early meetings, we'd ask people in the audience, how many people raise your hand if you think you're green or you're becoming green, and very few people would raise their hands. And we would see this as an educational moment to say to people, well, wait a minute, what are you wanting to do? What are you intending to do? This is the most important, part of this picture.
Mm-hmm.
Is to start with intention.
And you wanted everyone to raise their hands.
Of course.
Right.
The thing is we have to go about this in a way that is making people feel good,
Mm-hmm.
not people feeling bad. And so, engineering these kinds of scorings and methodologies for helping shepherd the transformation that needs to happen, it's got to contain both.
Mm-hmm.
It does have to meet these goals. It has to be moving towards meeting concrete goals and having measurable outcomes. But at the same time, it has to be encouraging, and it has to not become the thing that is one more chore for the bookkeeper to keep track of.
Mm-hmm. No, you're right. It has to feel good, right? I mean, that's the point. Lucy, I think that the Sustainable Spa Association has done a great job in that approach on your website, where you have people sign up for a certain interest area, if you will, plastic-free spa, circular spa, waste-free spa. So did you see this as a way to sort of chunk up the approach because it's so broad?
That's a difficult question to answer. I think people have different interests. Like I said, I think, I can easily identify, what areas of sustainability I would more easily lean into. And I think if there's ever going to be a door pushed open, it'll be something that's comes from a personal interest or a business interest. And to push that door, whatever it is, leads you into that pathway of sustainability. So there are many isolated actions that we talk about that are always talked about, not just in our industry, but individually in our personal lives as well. And single-use plastics are one of those. That will be probably one of the first actions that a business will take or celebrate or communicate to the outside world. So there's no harm in doing that, but it is an isolated action. But we don't say don't do it.
Mm-hmm.
But if that's the door that's going to push it open to your pathway to sustainability, then great, come in, because there's always other things to learn once you get in there.
Mm-hmm.
So we have a number of campaigns, and we do use those to kind of elevate the profile of the association, because, like I said, people will identify with different aspects of sustainability. So we do biodiversity, we do water stewardship, we do circular campaigns, we do waste campaigns. We are just embarking on a climate campaign with the UNFCCC as well. So whatever people's interests are, whatever gets them through that door, then there's more after that. And like, Michael said, it can be daunting, but once you're in there and you actually see that this is a business model, not just kind of one focused thing, then you see how supportive that is as a foundation to your business, the people in your business and the guests to your business.
Well, I do think it's just, as I said, very clever way to get people involved by taking a small step, and rather than being put off by the breadth of what lies ahead, take a small step and make some progress, and then maybe take another small step, because it is such a big mandate to meet all of these goals. Michael, can you talk a little bit about the Buyers Conference? That's a unique thing that Green Spa Network offers. How did that come about?
Well, the Buyers Conference was launched by Tara Grosjes and Jim Chenevieve when we were just having a difficult time being an educational organization having our Congress, which was an educational event, produce enough. Well, a lot of years we lost money, and education is not a money making. Well, it could be, but we haven't found it to be a way to make money. So we had to find an alternative way to bring people together that could also generate revenue. And so the Buyers Conference was a takeoff on a type of conference that other organizations were doing, but we made it to fit into a green business type of meeting of vendors and spas. And so it was a very successful way to help fund the organization and create a very good showcase for companies who are coming online with real commitment to sustainability. So that was how it got started, and it's been a major factor in supporting the success of Green Spa Network. I think that an important point I'd like to make here is just that what an incredible opportunity these types of businesses have for influencing the culture. Here we have the most affluent and influential people in the world walking through our doors every day. And, how can the experience in the spa really be the transformative one, not only for them personally, but help them join the ranks, if you will, of this very passionate, obvious, most necessary transformation of behavior that needs to happen. And I think one of the things we're up against is the way in which spas have been marketed. This image of pampering and indulgence has created a sense of license about what resources are used to create pleasure and comfort. And there is it suggests a certain capriciousness and value system that really runs counter to what a regenerative, earth-friendly lifestyle represents. So I think that, in order for us to really make this change a viable one, we have to go a bit deeper and look at how we're marketing the spas, what our message is internally and externally to who and what we are. What does healing really mean? And so messages like communion with nature and creating a meditative environment, the spirit of quietude, contentment, how we can create these kinds of experiences within our staff and within the guest experience, then so many of these things we're talking about become almost automatic.
That's a great distinction.
We're not going to need to tell people what they should do and shouldn't do, which will never work anyway. But, really leverage the enormous opportunity we have to open up a big channel of transformation with what we're actually offering at a core level and how we're messaging about it.
Lucy, I saw you nodding throughout Michael's comments. What's your point of view here?
I really agree with everything he said. I think he put that beautifully, and he is right. There has been, I think, but there is a shift now, but there has been this perception that our industry is providing a luxury, that it's something that's based on possibly shallow values for the guests, but it's not for the team that are there. I've been a therapist myself. Healing comes, people are there because they want people to feel well, and for people to feel well, that there's a lot of factors involved, and just the incredible spaces that we can provide as an industry to facilitate that are really, really important, and the people who work within it are really important to convey that across. So why would we not lean towards a more sustainable business model? It's so natural for our industry to go towards that model, because it is everything that we need to provide wellness on many, many levels.
I'm thinking about the advent of the B Corp, which is a relatively recent phenomenon. How many companies that both of you are involved with through sponsorship or work have taken that trouble to become a B Corp?
So far, not a lot, but I really highly respect and admire their organization, what they're doing. And of course, you may know it's actually a special type of corporation in the state of California now. And it's something we're interested in looking at quite seriously.
Mm-hmm. Lucy, do you have an equivalent designation that you would use?
We do. I mean, I have high respect for B Corp. They've really, really brought sustainability to the forefront for cross industry. And it's an incredible movement. There are many, many measurements out there for sustainability. And sometimes I think part of the confusion for people in our sector, but not just our sector, any sector, is that you're not comparing apples with apples. So we have decided as an association to go down one route with a company called Future Plus, who can work with not only our spas, but our 70% of our members are connected to wider hospitality. So their platform can actually address the overarching strategy for a bigger hospitality situation, whereas we look very in the granular detail into day-to-day spa decisions. But also we've had many brand partners, or we call them brand partners, but they're suppliers to the industry, who have approached us and said, well, we want to join you because we want to learn about sustainability. And in fact, our focus was very much towards the spa operator and not the supplier, because that's a huge job. Our focus was, like I said, on the granular level in a spa operation. So what Future Plus gives us is the opportunity to say, actually, do you know what? Come in, because we do want to celebrate the fact that you want to take this journey too. So similarly to B Corp, in a sense, I guess they have like a kind of baseline measurement of where they actually are, but what they can do then is stretch that through to an ambition that the company might have. And also give the kind of guidelines and roadmaps to get there. So their platform is a bigger extension of what we can provide as an association, but it opens the door to everybody, and we're really, really happy about that. We've done the soft launch of this over the last couple of weeks, I'd say maybe 4 weeks or so. And we will do a much bigger PR launch on this in a couple of months' time, well, a couple of weeks' time. Gosh, if I leave it months, they won't be happy. But no, we will launch that, and what it will be able to give our industry then is to be able to use a language, one measurement, one language that actually compares apples with apples.
Well,
is that a UK based organization?
UK based, but globally available.
Good to know. Future Plus, it's called?
Yep. All
right. Thank you for sharing that. So on that note of broadening your reach, has either of you tried or had a success at leveraging governmental entities to help you, whether it's local or municipal or in a city or even at a larger level? Have you had any success with that, getting attention from those entities?
I personally have. I don't know about you, Michael, but I haven't tried. I haven't tried on all of the levels that you've mentioned there, but in terms of because I actually do work very, very closely with UN SDGs, and it's very much part of one of the frameworks that we use for measuring sustainability. So as part of the Global Compact that I attend lots of meetings on, one of their biggest focuses, and what, the main focus that they ask us to look at is climate change. So this is how I kind of opened the door to working with the UN Climate Change Committee. So they are now helping a group, a very nice cross section of our global industry, from distributors to suppliers and operators and consultants and academics, to look at our roadmap to net zero. So that involves evaluating our industry on the whole. So we asked a lot of questions about how our industry is impacted by climate change, and the kind of things that close our businesses: floods, hurricanes, and or even wildfires for some of us here in Europe and over in the US and Canada. And then we look at how we are impacting climate change through distribution, through manufacture. And then we are going to come to a measurement at which we can then set a roadmap to net zero with specific actions, measurable actions that our global sector of wellness and wellness travel can take and contribute towards to get there. So I didn't go small on this one. I went as high as I could get to get the right actions, because actually what you don't want is unintended consequences through assuming that actions are going to be the right ones to take.
Good point. And hey, why not start at the top, right? You'll take whatever trickles down. Good for you. Michael, how about for Green Spa? Has there been any governmental leverage you've been able to take part of?
So far not. And I just am so awed, Lucy, by your connection and courage with working at such a high level. Kudos to you. That is absolutely fantastic that you're working directly with the United Nations. That is brilliant.
Well, come and join the committee, Michael. Come in.
Well, very much so. I mean,
come and help me.
we need attention brought, and I noted how both of you, especially you, Lucy, said, we have to do what consumers demand, and the younger consumer today is very aware of environmental issues and wants to know. We don't usually have CSR statements on spa websites, but it's not the worst idea, right, for businesses, small or large, to say, here's what we're doing, and at least whatever it is. I mean, you can't do all of the things that would be listed, but what can you do? And you start there. To that end, I think, Michael, I'd like you to speak for a moment about the sustainability assessment tool that the Green Spa Network offers. That's a really valuable tool for a small business.
Yes, it is. And we have spent an enormous amount of time and resources developing this tool, and it's available to members. And it is a questionnaire that you take online, and it collects a lot of data about all the different aspects of your organization. And then it gives you back a wonderful graphic that kind of shows you in a very visible way, where your strengths are, where you have opportunities to do more. And it also gives you a whole report out of potential next steps that are what you would be looking at to progress on your journey. And it's designed to integrate into our Green Spa Toolkit, which is a very spa-specific set of various ways in which you can move towards net zero, which is the ultimate goal here, all the way around.
Well, it's an excellent tool for any member to take advantage of, and it helps you focus on where to start, because accomplishments can be made in all areas. I noted how the Green Spa Network on the website has a tree planting initiative, and it has how many trees have been planted: 507,788 versus the goal of 1 million. That's very specific and measurable. And reachable, of course, but I'd like to ask you both about what beyond, like, what are the metrics you will use to measure the success of your associations moving forward? I'll start with you, Michael.
That is a very good question. And I'm not sure that, we have a clear picture of exactly how and what metrics are going to be determinative for us to feel satisfied that we're meeting our goals.
Mm-hmm.
I think that I'll bet you Lucy has a much better idea of what that landscape looks like. I would say that in the years that I have been involved in this work, the potential is it's been honestly a little frustrating, the speed at which things have moved.
Mm.
And I mean, the changes that are required are huge, and they're so obvious to people like us, and yet at the same time, and it needs to move faster, and we really need to get the right formula so that it can and will happen. And I feel we're on the threshold of that happening. I really do. So I'll be interested in Lucy's answer to this question.
Well, let's have it.
Actually, I think there's actually a moving target, so it's really, really hard to ever give. I mean, you can measure where you are from benchmarking those who are participating, and you can always try and move the dial from there. But without people like Michael, who did this in 1985, it wouldn't have paved the pathway for us to come in 2020 and kind of swoop in from one side and say, hey, we're going to do it, and we're going to do it like this. There's actually a lot of similarities between the two associations. And there's also Green Spar Africa as well, who are doing incredible work. And I love to talk. I talk a lot with Shanae. She also sits on my UN SDG board for Global Wellness Institute. And Joanna Roche and I at Green Spar Network have reached out to each other a number of times, and there's certainly a collaboration to do there. And with the collection of that data, the global benchmark becomes more clear. And from there, you look at where we're excelling as a global sector, and you look at where we need to put more time and energy into education to elevate the areas where we're not. And so I'm sure there will come a point where all three of these organizations actually share that data, sit around the table and say, come on, let's take it that one step further together. And that will be a really wonderful day.
That would be excellent. And why not, right? So if there's a spa or wellness business listening to this podcast, what would your advice be to them to get involved in either of these movements? How should they start?
Just jump in, really, honestly, because it's such a welcoming community. I'm sure Michael feels the same as well. Like, it is probably one of the most positive things I've ever done in my life. Everybody who understands or has a slight interest in sustainability, when they come through that door, everybody in there who's already in there, there's no judgment. There's none at all. They're just thrilled that you've joined, and will support wherever you are to bring you with them. So it's a non-competitive environment, and it's highly encouraging and really educational. So I would honestly say, just jump in. There isn't a starting point, and there is no end.
Well, obviously you've put out the welcome mat, Lucy. Starting this in the pandemic and growing to 44 countries already is quite impressive. Yeah. Michael, any advice in closing coming from your end on what spas or businesses that work in the spa industry should do first?
I think I totally echo what Lucy is saying. And I think that this is a moment really where collaboration is the absolute essential ingredient for us to get to where we want to go. And for people who are just wondering where to get started, any one of these organizations is going to get involved. And that would be my key, thing is because this is not a website. These are real people with beating hearts. Get into the organization, meet people, start talking to them, hear the stories of others, find out where and what obviously is going to make the most sense for you to get the ball rolling. And you'll find people in your organization, there in every organization, who want to do this, who are ready, willing, and able to step up and participate.
Well, thank you both for your contributions and sharing today. It's obviously an idea whose time has come. People, planet, profit, or prosperity. We need to work on it now. And we do in our spa and wellness industry. I think we have an audience that's maybe more interested in this topic or ready to do something than you might say if you ran a chain of drugstores. I think people that come to spas and are interested in wellness are also interested in the wellness of the planet. So I thank you both for your contributions and your work in this field. Lucy Brialey from Sustainable Spa Association and Michael Stusser, co-founder of the Green Spa Network. Thanks again for joining us today.
You're welcome. Thank you so much, Lisa.
It's my pleasure.
Thank you both.
Michael.